In international diplomacy, words can be as powerful as weapons. Every statement, every accusation, can ripple across continents and shape the course of history. Recently, North Korea unleashed a fierce accusation against the United States at the United Nations, sending shockwaves through the diplomatic community. On January 12, 2026, Pyongyang accused Washington of making a mockery of the UN, a serious charge in global politics, and one that cannot be ignored. The statement was loud, angry, and designed to grab the world's attention. It was a calculated move, meant to disrupt the usual order and force a global audience to listen. Tensions were already high. The US was planning a UN meeting to discuss North Korea's alleged violations of international sanctions, a topic that has long been a source of friction. But before the meeting could even begin, North Korea struck first, accusing the US of disrespecting the very institution meant to keep peace and order among nations. Pyongyang's move was bold, a preemptive attempt to flip the narrative and cast the US as the real problem, rather than the accused. This wasn't just a spat between two countries. It was a challenge to the foundation of the UN itself, questioning its ability to mediate fairly and maintain global trust. North Korea's message was clear. The US acts like a bully, ignoring rules when it suits its interests and undermining the credibility of international law. This accusation forced the world to reconsider America's role as a global leader and the health of the UN as a peacekeeping body. The timing was no accident. It followed a series of dramatic global events that left North Korea feeling threatened and isolated on the world stage. The US-North Korea relationship has always been fraught with suspicion, but recent actions and rhetoric have pushed it to a new, dangerous phase, raising fears of escalation. To understand North Korea's strong words, we need to look at the events that led up to them and the long history of distrust between these two nations. What drives Pyongyang's leadership? Fear, power, and the struggle for survival in a dangerous world where every move is scrutinized and every misstep could be fatal. The stakes are high. When one nation accuses another of undermining the UN, it shakes the entire system and puts the credibility of international cooperation at risk. This is more than rhetoric. It's a sign of deepening conflict and a warning that the world order may be shifting in unpredictable ways. The world is watching, and the consequences could be profound. Every nation, every leader, is now forced to consider their next move. The story is just beginning, and what happens next could shape the future of international relations for years to come. North Korea's statement was anything but diplomatic. Pyongyang called US actions shameless and a hideous criminal act, words meant to show deep anger and fear. The core accusation: the US uses the UN only when it serves American interests, ignoring it otherwise. North Korea saw the planned US briefing on sanctions as a public shaming, not a legitimate discussion. For Pyongyang, every US action, military drills, UN meetings, is part of a campaign to overthrow their government. They see their nuclear weapons as essential self-defense, especially when the US, with its vast arsenal, tries to deny them the same right. This perceived double standard fuels North Korea's fury and sense of injustice. In their eyes, the US is making a mockery of fairness and equality at the UN. That's why their response was so fierce. North Korea's fears aren't just paranoia. They're shaped by real events and a long history of tension with the outside world. In early January 2026, the world watched as the US captured Venezuela's President Maduro in a swift, high-stakes military operation that shocked many governments. For Pyongyang, this was a nightmare come true. A sovereign leader removed by American force, confirming their worst-case scenario. North Korea has long feared a decapitation strike, a sudden targeted attack designed to eliminate its leadership and cripple its command structure. The Venezuela operation looked exactly like what North Korea dreads, a rapid, overwhelming show of force that could happen anywhere, anytime. Analysts immediately saw the connection. If the US could do this to Venezuela, why not North Korea? The precedent was set, and the message was unmistakable. The incident justified Pyongyang's refusal to give up its weapons, reinforcing their belief that only strength can ensure their survival. The day after Maduro's capture, North Korea launched a new hypersonic missile, with Kim Jong-un personally overseeing the dramatic drill as a show of defiance. The message was clear: only a powerful nuclear deterrent can guarantee survival in a world where regime change is a real threat. The Venezuela event didn't scare North Korea into silence. It pushed them to double down on their military buildup, increasing both readiness and resolve. For Pyongyang, the threat is real and immediate, fueling a sense of urgency at the highest levels of government. Their response? More weapons, more resolve, and a determination to never let their guard down in the face of outside pressure. North Korea's fear of a decapitation strike is central to its strategy. In 2017, South Korea created a special unit to target Kim Jong-un in war, an open threat that alarmed Pyongyang. For the Kim dynasty, nuclear weapons are the ultimate insurance policy. The logic: no one attacks a country that can strike back with nukes. The capture of Maduro reinforced Kim's belief. Disarmament leads to regime change, as seen in Iraq and Libya. North Korea is determined not to repeat those mistakes. That's why they keep improving their arsenal missiles that can reach the US, solid fuel rockets, hypersonic tech. Every new weapon is another layer of protection. For Pyongyang, denuclearization is off the table. Survival depends on their nuclear shield. The world's pressure only makes them dig in deeper. Their message: nuclear weapons are here to stay. North Korea's accusation reflects a real shift in U.S. foreign policy. Under President Trump, the U.S. has pulled out of several UN organizations, prioritizing America first. In 2025, the U.S. even sided with Russia on key UN Security Council votes, shocking its allies. Critics warn this weakens the UN and isolates America. For North Korea, a divided UN is less threatening, but a unilateral U.S. is more unpredictable and dangerous. If Washington ignores allies and the UN, Pyongyang fears it could ignore all rules to attack them. This unpredictability fuels North Korea's paranoia and military buildup. The world order is shifting, and so are the risks. North Korea isn't as isolated as many believe. It has powerful friends who shape its future and ambitions. Russia has provided crucial technology, helping Pyongyang develop advanced missiles, including hypersonic and solid-fuel ICBMs. This partnership has accelerated North Korea's weapons program, making it more sophisticated and unpredictable. In October 2025, North Korea showcased these new weapons in a massive parade, signaling to the world that its military capabilities have reached a new level. Solid-fuel missiles can launch in minutes, making them harder to detect and destroy. This rapid response strengthens North Korea's deterrent and complicates any potential preemptive strike. China's premier attended the parade, signaling Beijing's quiet but unmistakable support for its neighbor's growing power. China's stance has shifted from denuclearization to tacit acceptance, seeing North Korea as a strategic buffer against U.S. influence in East Asia and a useful partner in regional politics. At the UN, China and Russia shield North Korea from harsher sanctions, arguing for dialogue over pressure and blocking efforts to further isolate Pyongyang. This support lets Pyongyang withstand international pressure and keep building its arsenal, undeterred by global condemnation. Together, China, Russia, and North Korea form a bloc that openly challenges U.S. policy and influence in the region, reshaping alliances. The balance of power is changing, with new alliances and rivalries emerging across East Asia. North Korea's alliances make it harder to isolate and much harder to contain, raising the stakes for the entire world. The stakes are higher than ever, as the world faces a new era of uncertainty and risk. Sanctions have been the main tool against North Korea, but their effectiveness is hotly debated. The UN has imposed strict limits on North Korea's trade and resources, aiming to force denuclearization. The US, Japan, and South Korea push for tougher measures, but China and Russia often undermine enforcement. North Korea has adapted, using smuggling and cybercrime to evade sanctions. Despite economic pain, Pyongyang's weapons programs continue. The US and allies want more pressure. China and Russia argue that more sanctions only increase the risk of war. They propose dialogue and security guarantees instead. This fundamental split has created a stalemate at the UN. No unified strategy means no progress. The world remains stuck, and North Korea keeps advancing. The U.S. sees North Korea as a rogue state and a global threat, determined to stop its nuclear program at all costs. Sanctions and military exercises are, for Washington, necessary defenses. The U.S. views North Korea's accusations as distractions from its own violations of international law. From Pyongyang's perspective, the U.S. is an existential threat, with a history of regime change and military pressure. Nuclear weapons are seen as essential self-defense, not aggression. North Korea sees sanctions as acts of war, not law. Their accusations at the UN are a protest against what they see as American hypocrisy. Both sides feel victimized, both see the other as the aggressor. This clash of narratives fuels the ongoing standoff. Understanding both perspectives is key to any solution. The US-North Korea standoff at the UN is more than a war of words. It's a warning sign for global peace. A nuclear-armed state that feels cornered is unpredictable and dangerous. The risk of miscalculation or escalation is real, with catastrophic consequences. The UN's divisions make it harder to prevent conflict. North Korea's accusations and America's actions erode trust in global institutions. If diplomacy fails, the world could see a new arms race in Asia, with countries like South Korea and Japan considering their own nuclear weapons. The non-proliferation regime is at risk. The world must find a way to de-escalate and return to negotiations. The fate of millions and the future of global stability hangs in the balance. The time for creative diplomacy is now.